And off we go. Okay, there we go. All right. So welcome, everybody. Welcome to session 5 of the non-resident tax training for the VITA Clinic. So this is our general spring agenda. So we are normally going to be doing non-resident and resident tax training from like 5:30 to 7:30, and then we are going to be working on tax returns for the rest of it. Especially tonight. Next week is going to be very heavy on the training, not so much on the practice. But tonight's going to be all about practice, and then as will the last 2 nights as well. And our tax clinics are starting on 20th of February. So if you can believe it, it is not very long away. We'll get ready and go. So a little bit more detail about tonight. So we're going to do a quick volunteer update. I'm just kind of let you guys know where everything is at. Federal tax review. I'm going to try to cover 3 weeks of tax training in like 5 slides. So we'll see how well that goes. Talk a little bit more about our site and our tool introduction. And then talk about TaxSlayer, the software that you will all soon learn to love or learn to love to hate. And I will do a demonstration of that with Lisa, our dear friend Lisa in TaxSlayer. You'll see how it works. And then it will be your turn. So if you have been part of the resident program, you've already created a TaxSlayer account. But if you haven't, you're going to get to do that tonight. Then it will be your turn to do Lisa, and then it will be your turn to do Sunil. Like I said, for resident, we're not really going to do much of anything tonight for residents because you guys have already learned about TaxSlayer. And that's really what the focus is tonight, is getting everybody into TaxSlayer, preparing non-resident returns. We will take a break somewhere around 6:30, whenever an appropriate time is, and we'll go from there. All right, so volunteer update. So right now we have 43 people that have passed the IRS tests. So well done to all of you that are here. Well done to everybody that's out on Zoom or watching this later. Good job. That the foreign student test, right? I didn't say that now, but I'll say it now. Didn't say it then, right? It's a hard test, right? That thing is not easy and it is long. It's the longest stupid test in the IRS certification path. So well done to everybody that passed it. I would say also, so almost everybody that passed the test did all of the work in Moodle first. So, and I know that was an investment of your time, but it really paid off for you because you did pass it. There were a few exceptions for some return volunteers where they already kind of knew stuff. But generally, if you passed it, you did all of the work first. I can also say, so we have a bunch of people that kind of have dropped out over time. And we've also had a handful of folks that did not pass. And unfortunately, every single one of them didn't do the stuff in Moodle first, right? They dropped off somewhere along the way and said, oh, I'm going to just go take the test. And it did not go very well. So the good news is everybody did great. Y'all passed. The bad news is I'm going to make you do more Moodle too. We're going to continue to require it. We don't have a similar like official test certification for states or anything like that. But we are going to do call it like a readiness test for all of our volunteers. So before we turn you all loose on our clients, we're going to have some additional work. It'll be kind of a combination of quiz questions and tax return forms. Again, the primary focus for this whole session is going to be software and state tax returns, the whole spring session. So it is completely and 100% fair to use all of the tools you have at your disposal to help prepare any of these returns, right? Tax software, tax guides, all of the presentations, all of the notes, all of the examples. And you're going to have multiple chances to pass, right? So this is not something where you, it's like the IRS test where you get like 2 chances and you're done and you have to say goodbye. So I'm not going to bar anybody from participating if you don't pass, but I will make you keep trying until you pass. So however many times it takes, I will be right there with you. But based on the fact that you all got through the IRS test in 2 turns, I think that there's not going to be any real problem with that at all this year. All right. Okay, moving on. All right, so let's talk about tax volunteer signups. So a lot of people have signed up. There are still some people that have not signed up for any tax clinics to volunteer. There are also kind of a subset of people that have not signed up for very many tax clinics yet. So if you have signed up for less than 6, you will get an email from me over the next few days saying, please, could you please sign up? We would really love it if you would sign up for a few more, if you possibly could. And if it doesn't work, right, if your schedule is packed, you're working, whatever, that's fine. Right? We understand that. But I'm going to just at least ask one more time to see if I can encourage you to sign up for at least 6, hopefully 8. Go crazy, sign up for 10, do whatever. As we look at the clinic, so that was like how many people have signed up, right? If you signed up for 4, if you signed up for 8, this is how our clinics look. So that dark blue line is who signed up. That light blue is kind of our capacity. So as we look at that red line, that's our in-person tax clinics. And generally we say that we really would like to have at least 6 volunteers at our in-person tax clinics. You just don't get very many people there. If you don't have that many, it's not really worth it. We might just switch the format to remote if we can't get enough. So for the U of M clinics, we're mostly looking good. Lehigh's a little bit short. Duluth is great. So if you get a chance and you want to do another in-person tax clinic, that would be awesome. A bunch of them are on Saturdays, and we do have good food for lunch on Saturdays from SSF. So if you're going to be here in person, we will give you a good lunch to compensate you for that. The remote tax clinics are looking pretty good, as are the office hours. The one thing I would say there is that generally 2 things. Number one, we might add a little bit of office hour capacity because those are pretty popular here. But then number 2, later tax clinics, later tax events, that's where we get the majority of our demand, right? Because everybody kind of puts it off until the end. So if you are going to be able to sign up for another one, if you can go for ones that are a little bit later in the season, that would be very helpful, because that's really when we see people saying, oh my God, it's due next week and I have to file, and what do I do? And we need to be able to talk them down off of that ledge. But we're looking good. And so based on this, on Friday or so, I'll be updating all of the client appointment lists so that we can see how many clients can book appointments as well. All right, so with that, let's do a really, really quick review of federal tax for non-resident aliens. This should be very familiar for everybody here. So remember, if you are a citizen or a green card holder, you are a resident automatically. You get to pay US taxes forever. If you are not a citizen or a green card holder, you're going to be an alien. And the substantial presence test is going to determine whether you're a resident alien or a non-resident alien. And this is that fabulous one where you have to do some math about the number of days that you're here. There are people that are exempt from the substantial presence test, not exempt from paying taxes. We get lots of questions, but only exempt from the test. And those people don't count the days that they're present. That's students for the first 5 calendar years, lifetime calendar years. Teachers or trainees unless they were previously exempt in 2 of the prior 6 calendar years. If you are exempt, you always file that form 8843, even if you have no income. And the 8843 form is the only one that I know of where you don't have to have a social security number or an ITIN. You can just put your name on it and off it goes into the IRS. And I say star almost always because taxes, you can never say absolutely always every time. There's always an exception. There's probably always an exception to even the exceptions. All right. So if you are not a U.S. resident, that means you are not a U.S. tax resident. So where are you a tax resident of, right? It can't be the United States because you're a non-resident. So when we look to determine that, we look at where they were living before they came to the U.S., right? Where is their home? So it's not just like a temporary visit for vacation or, 3 months for a summer internship or something like that. This is like, where is your permanent home? Do they have a place of business or employment? Probably most of our students won't, but maybe some of like the teachers or researchers would. Again, permanent home, family, citizenship, passport. Can they stay there forever? Can they work there, or do they have to leave as well? Often the time limit for this is 6 months. So once they've been living there for more than 6 months, that makes them a resident in that new country. But if we ever want to know exactly what the rules are, this is that link to figure out exactly what the rules are for Canada or anywhere in the world. All right, so as a non-resident alien, you only have to pay US tax on US income. So it's money that comes from here. Anything else or outside of the world, remember we we don't pay any attention to it. We pretend it doesn't exist. You must file though with any amount of income. So if you have any amount at all, you still have to file a return. There's no like minimum threshold like there is for residents where you don't have to file. You can never file a joint return with your spouse. You always have to use that married filing separately status. It doesn't matter who your spouse is or where they're living in the world, you are still married. Wages are always going to be taxed. Treaties may exempt some amounts. Generally, it's going to be unlimited for teachers or researchers, and it's going to be a small amount or medium amount for students. That may or may not be reported on a 1042-S. Remember, the form that the income is reported on does not determine if you get a treaty or not. And I know I kind of harp on that all the time, but we see a lot of students that come in without any treaty benefits forms, and they're still eligible for treaties. So we want to make sure that they get them. Scholarships are tax-free for everybody if they are for tuition or required books or fees. If they're not for that, they're generally taxable. However, some people may have a treaty that may exempt them from tax. It may either be an unlimited amount or a set amount, maybe for any purpose, or it may be only for like common living expenses. If you are self-employed, if you have your own business, it's going to be reported on a 1099 NEC or miscellaneous. Unfortunately, that is out of scope for us. It's not very common, but we do see some people with an internship where that money comes into them on a 1099. Dividends and capital gains. So those are generally going to be taxed at 30%. Sometimes treaties will give you a better benefit, and they all get reported on Schedule NEC. So they don't get reported on the standard resident return forms. They don't get reported on a capital gains Schedule D or the Form 8949. And those are going to be in scope if you've got both the foreign student and the advanced certification. And then bank interest is not taxable and not reportable. So hopefully there are some non-resident alien students that are getting lots of interest these days because the rates are so high. All right, almost everybody has to itemize their deductions. The only exception to that is students from India. And it's not teachers or researchers or scholars, it's only students. Everyone else itemizes, which means that the tax they pay to state or local governments is a deduction that they can take as our charitable contributions. And remember, if they itemized last year, they deducted tax and they got a state tax refund, that refund is going to be taxable income this year to the extent that that affected their income and their taxes last year. There are essentially no credits. This is a great part for non-resident returns because resident returns have a ton of them. But for non-residents, there's basically nothing, and there's absolutely no education credits. They don't have to pay Social Security and Medicare taxes while they're non-resident aliens, but they do once they become a resident alien. And if somebody is on a -2 visa and they're working here in the US, they also have to pay Social Security and Medicare, even if they are non-resident aliens. All right. My favorite tax treaty page, all right, the Fabulous Six. This is a super good deal, right? 2 years, doesn't matter how much you earn, you don't have to pay any taxes. But if you stay one day into that third year, you have to pay taxes on everything. So if we find a teacher or researcher from India, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Thailand, Pakistan, or the UK, we would want to have a conversation with them. Hey, how long are you going to be here? Do you think you're going to leave? Do you know? Are you not sure? This is the deal for you, right? Super good deal if you leave. Canada has that special deal. If they earn less than $10,000 in wages, tax-free. If they earn more than $10,000, they pay tax on the whole shebang. Germany's treaty benefit for students is also retroactively eliminated if they get 4 years. So it is really short for students. It is not kind of like a typical 5 years. So they would still be non-resident aliens, but if they're going to be here for more than 4 years, they're going to take that 5 years to graduate, then they should not claim that treaty. And then China has the great deal because they still get to claim that treaty even after they become resident aliens. All right, I have a fabulous publication 4011 update. So If you have one of these at home, or if you're here in class and so I updated all of the ones that are here, but if you took one home, you need to go into it, go to the page for teaching and research treaty benefits, which is page number 14. And the line for Turkey, you should draw through. So the treaty benefit for Turkey, so only applies to money that is paid to them by a foreign resident, right? So that is money that's coming from outside the United States. So if there is a teacher from Turkey that's here at the University of Minnesota and they're doing teaching work, they're going to get a W-2 and they do not get a treaty benefit because they are not being paid by a foreign resident. They're being paid by a U.S. resident or a U.S. organization. All right. Any questions on that one? Hopefully there'll be an official update from the IRS at some point on that, but for the moment, we're moving forward with that. All right. And that, in about 3 minutes, is 3 weeks of hard work. Does anybody have any questions about that before we move on? Any questions online? All right. If you do, you're always welcome to send an email or send a chat. We'll be happy to answer them. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about the tax clinics tonight and kind of how everything works for our clients, just to make sure kind of everybody's on the same page, how you know it works. Then you can see how your job and your role fits into it. So just as a reminder, so our client population are generally international students, scholars, teachers, and researchers. So according to SEVIS, there were over 1 million of those individuals here a year ago. So probably even more today. If we look at the organizations that we're partnering with, so the U of M, all campuses, has something like 6,500 international students. Lehigh's got about 1,100. App State's got about 150. Kathy, you can correct me if I'm wrong. University of Wisconsin Green Bay's got about 200. And then University of Maryland, Baltimore County has about 2,600. So we're talking about 10,000 potential clients, not counting all of the random folks that come find our site. And in a traditional model, it takes about an hour of volunteer time to prepare a tax return. And with our, I didn't update this. So with our current volunteer signups, we're probably in the 390, 400 hours worth of volunteer time, right? So if we did it with a traditional model, we would be able to help, less than 0.5% of those students at those schools that we'd like to support. So it's not realistic that we can try to do that and help the number of people that we want to help. I'd also like to compare a little bit about our clients and our volunteers, right? So you guys have gone through a lot of really hard work to learn about taxes, right? You've had 6 to 12 hours of training and practice. You've passed the certification tests. You know about all of the IRS websites and publications. You've got access to tax experts like me and other supporting IRS people. You're going to have another 4 to 8 hours of education and practice with the tax software as well. On the other hand, our clients walk in, they get about 1,000th of an hour of tax training. I will provide the tax training to you right now. As an international student, it is your responsibility to ensure that you are compliant with your tax obligations. And that is their tax training. So they really generally get absolutely nothing. They know they need to do it, but they have no idea what to do. Right? So what do? They turn to our friends, Dr. Google, ChatGPT, their friend networks, to try to figure out what to do because they need to do it. They know they need to do it, but they don't know what to do. They get no education on the software. There are no instructions or guides. They can pay $100 and get some software that's designed for non-resident aliens, but it's not really reasonable to expect that they're going to be able to do a good job, right? They need help to close this gap. And it's not realistic, unfortunately, that they're probably not going to dedicate, right, the same amount of time that you have, that 10 to 20 hours of learning to be able to prepare their own tax return. So we're here to try to bridge that gap. All right. generally everybody has the information to get started, right? They know their visa type, they know their travel history, they know when they came here, they know what income documents they have, they just don't really know what to do them. And the advantage for us that you hopefully will start to see now is that even though it's complicated to do non-resident taxes, it's also very logic-based, right? If you tell me your visa and you tell me your travel history, every single time I can tell you what your federal tax residency is, right? There's no options in that. And there are very few options in a tax return for non-residents. And our clients are generally very tech savvy, right? This is super good, at least especially compared to a typical VITA population. So how do we leverage those two things? The first thing that we do is the TaxSlayer software, the FSA software, that's self-prep software. So they have access to it. That means we don't have to provide equipment and we don't have to provide volunteer hours for every single return that gets prepared. It means that we can prepare and provide help only on an as-needed basis through email, through office hours, or through in-person tax clinics and remote tax clinics. But the biggest bridge that we've built is a series of tools to try to help bridge the gap between what they know and what they need to have to prepare their tax return. So the analogy that I would like to use, and we'll probably come back to this, right, is cooking. So if you can imagine it, today here, you are going to culinary school. You are learning to be a chef for taxes, right? You are learning all of the details, all of the information. We are not asking all of the international students to become chefs. What we are asking is for them to follow a recipe. And they say, okay, I want a chicken dish with some green peppers and maybe some mushrooms. All right, let's go find the chicken dishes. Let's see what recipe is going to work for you. Off you go. So I want to talk about why I didn't tell you about these tools while you were taking or before you took the test, right? And it comes back to the idea, right? You're the chef. It's okay for you to use the tools, but you have to know how the tools work. You can't just use them blindly and always expect them to work, right? And you need to be able to, I'll call it like season a dish, right? So you're walking around, like pretend we're in a cooking class, right? You're the chef. So the people are all cooking. You walk over, you take a look at their return, you taste their dish, and you say, oh, that needs salt. Oh, you need to update this to show your standard deduction, right? You need to be able to walk around and do that stuff on the fly. You need to know it well enough to do that. You can't just always rely on those tools. So it's completely okay to use those tools now to get yourself up to speed. But you guys needed some practice with the basics before we introduce them. All right, so we have 3 tools. The first one is, am I a non-resident alien? Very simple. Enter your visa, enter your visits. It does all of the math for you. It says, congratulations, you're a non-resident alien. Congratulations, you're a resident. Congratulations, you're a dual status alien, God forbid. And it does all the counts. So you don't have to do any more math to say how many days we're in 365 or not. The next one is our treaty benefits tool. You enter your visa, you enter your tax residency, your country of tax residency. Remember, that's not the US. And it will show you what treaty benefits you can claim. You can also enter some information about your income documents, and it will tell you whether those documents match or whether they don't. And you have to do some special entries on those. And then our final tool is a personalized guide tool. It's a combination of those tools plus some additional tax interview questions. Once you get through that, you get a screenshot by screenshot guide that walks you through step by step to prepare your tax return in the software, right? So that is that recipe that walks them through literally do this, click here, click that, enter your visa type here, so on and so forth. The first 2 website or tools are out on our main website. They're out there. I'll show you where. The last one is not in our, not on our public website. So it'll be in, I haven't added it in Moodle, but I will add it in there for you guys. But it's not a public link. So it's out there. That's kind of our secret sauce that makes our organization successful and work. Whoa, what in the world did I do there? All right, let's go back up here. Okay, so this is where you find the tools. If you go to NRV tab, tax assistance, useful tools and links. Am I a non-resident alien? What are my treaty benefits? And just to kind of look at what those are, So let's look at Sergio. All right. So Sergio, remember him? He's from Spain. He had all of these trips back home. He had bank interest. He only had a W-2, right? That was his special deal. So I'm going to go and I'm going to do the tools for you guys so you can see what they look like. Am I a non-resident alien? Okay. So we're doing for tax year 2023. We would say F1 student. Let's say I'm just going to make it up because it's a pain to go back and forth. Let's say he came in 2020, but then he left the summer of 2022. He came back that fall, 08/31, 2022, and he's been here ever since. Just like that, it confirms that he's a non-resident alien. It gives us all of the dates that he needs to enter. And we have a little note here that says, hey, you are required to file a form 8843 because you are an exempt individual, right? So it gives him that information. And then if we go to treaty benefits, let's say we're a student from Spain, scroll down, here we go. Oop, we don't want to print results, we want to check, there we are. So it says that he gets a treaty benefit for scholarship or fellowship income, unlimited amount. He also gets a $5,000 treaty benefit for wage income. We can enter his income documents there. So let's say he has a W-2 for $8,000. Let's see if our treaty benefits match. And it says that they do not match. And it gives information here about the special entries we're going to have to do so he can claim his tax treaty benefits in TaxSlayer. We'll go through all of that here over the next few weeks. Okay. All right, so those tools are out there. You are more than welcome to use them. If you see anything that you think is wrong, please ask, right? We've done a lot of testing to try to make sure that they're all right, but there are edge cases that we find every year. So feel free to ask us about them if you see anything that doesn't look correct. All right, any questions about those?
I have a question, Mary. I have a question.
And let's talk about how this works for our clients, right? So the way the process works is our students, international students, will sign up for a free membership. They must have a school, nonprofit, or government email address. We have general memberships, and then we also have a series of school-based memberships. And those school-based ones basically say, okay, you're a University of Minnesota Twin Cities student. You can see all of the in-person U of M tax clinics that are here. You're a Lehigh student. You can see all of the tax clinics that are out at Lehigh, as well as the remote stuff. Same for App State and same for the other ones that have in-person clinics. That membership gives them access to a set of website pages that have educational information to learn about taxes, as well as the free tax software link, the tools, and the tax appointment pages. So we can put school-specific information. So for example, at the University of Minnesota, you have one stop. But at Lehigh, their student account information is all in a system called Banner. So that way we can give them the instructions. This is where you need to go. This is how it looks. Off you go. And our opening day is January 29th. So we will open in just under a week is our plan. And we'll go from there. All right. We have no member signups yet. So we always track it to see like, how are we doing? This is the past few years, but there's nothing yet because we're not open. We also don't have any client signups. So that's one of the things that we'll track as well as, all right, how many people are signing up for appointments? How busy are we? Again, usually the first few weeks are a little bit slower and then it kind of picks up and gets quite busy right after spring break. All right, any questions about that before we go into the great fun that is TaxSlayer? All right. So TaxSlayer. So let's talk about this. So the IRS has a contract with TaxSlayer to provide tax software for VITA sites. TaxSlayer themselves, they have multiple versions of their software. There's this TaxSlayer Pro, there's the FSA version. They also sell versions online as well, either to like CPA firms or to individuals. As we use the TaxSlayer Pro and the VITA program, the practice lab, that is like a sandbox version. So you cannot cause any problems using TaxSlayer practice lab. Even if you try to e-file a return, even if it says that it e-filed a return, it did not actually really e-file a return. It did not go to the IRS. So you can play with it as much as you want. It is the real version of TaxSlayer, so it is good. It's out there. You can do whatever you want with it, but it's not gonna. You're not gonna cause any problems. TaxSlayer FSA, though, when we have that link, that is the real software. So if you like put a fake ID number in there and you prepare a return and you click send, you just filed the return on somebody else's behalf. So that is why we do not use that to mess around with, because we don't want to do anything like that. That would get us in big trouble. All right. The one challenge that we've got is that the two versions, the FSA and the online, the DIY versus the Pro, they're not quite identical. They're almost identical, but the Pro version does have a few more kind of like adjustments and things you can do because they're sort of assuming that either a trained volunteer or a tax pro is using it as opposed to a consumer that's using it. I will show you that software, the FSA software, so you can see the difference. And the guides are all developed based on that FSA software. So as we go through things, if things look a little bit different for you, that is probably why, is that the FSA software is not quite the same. It's also probably can be a little different because I don't have the link yet to our 2023 software, so I can't update any guides yet. So they're all 2022 guides at the moment. The other challenge that we have is sometimes people don't click on the link in our page. They just say, oh, TaxSlayer, and they just go Google TaxSlayer and go to that link. The problem is that that will not let them file their return for free. So if they do that, they can still use software, but it doesn't do a free return. They would have to either pay for the return or come back to our site, create a new account, enter everything in again, then off they go. We have this a decent amount, unfortunately. If you ever see that, so when you're talking with a client, if you look in the upper left-hand corner of their screen, if it says American Pledge, that is the free version. If it says like Simply Free or something like that, it is not simply free. It will be, you have to pay for it. All right. So I am going to walk you through preparing the return with Lisa so you guys can see what this software looks like. All right. And I know you guys all remember this, right? She is a F1 student from China. She came here. She went home over the summer. She worked on campus. She filed tax returns last year. She had to pay some extra tax. She's studying accounting. This is all her information here. All right. We're doing good on time. All right. She's got a 1042S for $5,000. It's income code 20, which means it's for wages earned while studying or training, which is good. And then she has a W-2. So remember her total income. We take her wages that were on her W-2. We take her wages on her 1042S. We can add them and say, okay, her total income was $13,400. Now she gets a treaty benefit of $5,000. We know that from our 4011. That means that her taxable wages that she's going to report on her 1040 NR are going to be $8,400. So in Lisa's case, right, everything matches, makes it super easy to go, but that doesn't always hold true for all of our clients. That's why we did Sergio's return, just to kind of give everybody your first taste of what that looks like. All right. All right, so if we were doing this kind of in the old way by hand, I would say use your tools before you start working on any forms, right? Go through the 8843 or the MI non-resident alien and the treaty benefits. Then you can start working for the forms. It's going to do all the math for you, make your life easier. And this is what Lisa's MI non-resident alien would look like. It would have all of her data there. And it would be her treaty benefits. And it would say, you enter her W-2 and her 1042S. I would say, congratulations, everything matches. You're all good. All right. So I am going to walk you through what our personalized guide looks like, and then we're going to go into TaxSlayer, and we are going to do a return for her right there. And we are going to use Practice Lab. All right, so get out of here. Let's go back over to here. Let's go to here. Okay, and I need to steal piece of information because I forget. Okay. All right, so this is our personalized guide. It says series of tools, questions, generate your customized thing. Oop, I see chat. Okay. Okay. They have a question. All right. I didn't see that question. So if somebody wants to send me a chat, or I'd be happy to talk about it at the break. Thank you, Kathy, for bringing that up. Does anybody else have a question? I can stop and ask. Wait for that. All right. If you do, please let me know. Okay. So our first question, are you a citizen, national, or lawful permanent resident? No. What country or countries were you a citizen of? She is a citizen of China. What country or countries were you a tax resident of? What country were you a tax resident of? It was China as well. All right. Now we have our Am I a non-resident alien tool? 08, 08, 2021. She left 524, 2022. We're going to add another visit. 08, 2022, and she's been here ever since. Okay. All right, so it confirms that she's a non-resident alien. It doesn't give us all of the results because we don't need them, right? We're gonna get a whole big guide that tells us all of that information later. Were you married on the end of the year? No, Lisa was not married. If you are married, then that can affect things a little bit if you're married to a US citizen, but otherwise, no. Do you have a social security number right in? Yes, you do. All right, what types of income did you receive? Check all that apply. All right, so she has a W-2 and she has a 1042S with income code 20. So that is what she's going to enter here. These are the other common types of income that we see that are going to be in scope for us to assist with or provide some information about. All right, now we're going to check if your income documents match your treaty benefits. So enter that information here. So when we enter a 1042S, we have to enter an income code. And we're going to add a W-2. There's no income code for W-2s. There we go. All right. Did you contribute any money to a charitable organization? Nope. Did you make payments on a student loan? Nope. Did you file a tax return? Yes. Did you get a refund? Nope. You had to pay extra money. Poor Lisa. All right. And then where did you live in the United States? Because we were going to do her state tax return as well. She lived in Minnesota. She got income here in Minnesota. Did you get a certificate of rent paid? Nope. We'll talk about that stuff later next week. None of those things apply to her. All right. And that's it. We click the button and we wait and we wait. And it downloads a personalized guide for her. And this basically will walk through preparing her tax return. So it's got our disclosures, it's got a warning, right? TaxSlayer is not smart. I wish it was smart, but it is not smart. So you can make it show all kinds of different numbers, really, really fabulous refunds, but that doesn't mean that that return is right. And it is everybody's individual responsibility to make sure that their return is right. This is kind of an overview of the process, a reminder of scope. This is the little link of what it looks like for the software and the personalized guide. So click there, create an account, go on in. So this looks very different than what we're going to see for TaxSlayer Practice Lab because this is the TaxSlayer FSA software. But it talks about creating an account, enter a phone number, You're on the good version, the free version, not the one that has to be paid for. Leave this one blank. And off you go. And then you start entering your information like that. All right, and it'll just keep walking all the way through. And just because of screen space, I am going to skip that part of it, and we're going to go straight into TaxSlayer FSA, or Practice Lab, pardon me. All right, so when you log into TaxSlayer, you have to create an account. And then you can go to the practice area. And then we're going to start a new return. That's the way. All right, and then we're going to make up a number. All right, we just do the basic return. That's all we need to do. Okay. So we start with filing status. We are not going to select single, even though Lisa is not married. We are going to select non-resident alien, and then we will select single non-resident alien. So that is the first thing to do. Lisa, the example. All right. She was born 04, tax day, 2003, I think. Yes, thank you. All right. She is a student. So teacher, researcher, generally whatever their visa says, that is a good occupation to put. All right. She can't be claimed by anybody else on a return. She is over 18 and she is a full-time student. She is not blind. She is not deceased. She is not going to contribute to the presidential election campaign fund. We'll talk about that later. She was not affected by a natural disaster or served in a combat zone. She did not do any digital assets. Well done, Lisa, for that. If she wanted to get communications in a different language, she can select that here. And there's a whole bunch of different languages. So if people want to select that, that is fantastic. They are welcome to do that. And then she's going to enter her address. Let's see if I can pin that. There we go. All right. 200 University Avenue, apartment number 1, 55455. It generally knows what the city and town is. Her phone number, she wants to put it. All right. And then we continue. Does she have any dependents? Is she supporting anybody here in the United States? Nope, she is not. All right. Now we're going to enter her Schedule OI information. So she is an individual. We're going to select her country of tax residency and country of citizenship. So again, China. She is not a resident of Canada or Mexico, so we do this other not listed. She has a non-immigrant visa. So we select that and then F1. She's never applied for a green card, been a citizen, had a green card, or changed her visa type. So these are all those questions on the Schedule OI. Now for this, we would do the number of days. I can't even remember, so I'm going to just make it up. 182, 275, 365, something like that. She did file a tax return last year, so 2022, 1040 NR. No, she didn't file a trust. She didn't get more than 250K of income. She doesn't want to have our check mailed to a different address. So that is all good there. Next is dates entered and departed. This is that table in line G. So we have to have something on that first one, the date entered, or the first date that she was in the United States during 2023, which is January 1st. She never left, so that's all we need to do there. And then we're going to skip over that for the moment. All right. So we have filled out her Schedule OI. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into the federal section and miscellaneous forms, and we're going to fill out her 8843, which is there at the bottom. So Again, she's a non-immigrant. They copied some information in here for us, which was fantastic, but it doesn't have everything. So we have to enter more information. So we'll enter her most recent visit, entry date, which was the 8/31/2022. She's never changed. Her current visa status is F1, at line 1B. She was a citizen of China. China issued her passport. Her passport number is 1235679. All right, days in 23, 365, 275, 182, something like that. Days she can exclude 365. She is a student, so she's going to do part 3. If she was a teacher or trainee, we do part 2. University of Minnesota. 612 626 7100, I think. Something like that. 5545. All right. Again. 612 There we go. Same 319. All that. Was she here as a teacher, trainee, or student for more than 5 calendar years? Nope. Did she take steps to apply for a lawful permanent resident? Nope. And if she had a visa in a previous year, we have to enter that in, which she did. She had a visa during 2021. It was an F1. Did she change? No. Visa in 2022, yes, F1, but she did not change. All right. And so that is how you use the software to prepare her form 8843. Next, we're going to enter her income documents. So we enter her W-2. It's just a standard W-2. Here we are, University of Minnesota. We enter her wages, 8,400. Federal tax withheld is 840. All right, she did not have any Social Security or Medicare wages, right? Because she does not have to pay those taxes, that lucky girl. So we just delete that information. And I would just delete it. I wouldn't put a 0, I would just delete it. All of these other things are blank on her W-2 until we get down to the state, where we find Minnesota. There we go. 8,400. She had 449 taxes withheld. All right. And there we go. So, and it does a little running total to see like how much of a refund she's going to get or how much tax she owes. All right. So W-2 is really straightforward, not difficult at all. The 1042S is very well hidden down in the payments and estimates. Down here at the bottom, foreign persons U.S. source income subject to withholding. And we will enter the information that we have to for this. We have to enter a chapter number. We have to enter a unique form ID number. We have to enter a chapter status code, which is 4 for her. It means it's exempt from treaty. It's not amended or anything like that. The income code is 20. That's box number 1. Gross income is box number 2. That's $5,000. Now she has nothing else down here, right? She has none of those other boxes filled out, so we're not going to fill those out. We're going to look to see if there's anything that has a star. We're not going to fill it out unless it does. And so here, chapter 3 status code. Chapter 3 is who she is. She is an individual. Recipient information, who got the money, an individual person that got the money. And that should be all that we need to do to enter that one right there. And if it doesn't like it, it will tell us that. And those are like completely off, but that's okay. All right. So we have entered her Schedule OI, we've entered her 8843, we've entered her W-2, and we've entered her 1042S. The one thing that we still have to go back and do is we have to go back and we have to enter her treaty benefit information. So if we go into here and her income exempt from tax, it is China. Treaty article for China for student wages is 20C. Number of months claimed on prior returns, 12, because she filed last year. Amount of income that was exempt, $5,000. There we go. And let's go see how it looks. So we go to summary print, you print the return, and here we go. All right, and then TaxSlayer and Practice Lab, it always has like these funky extra pages at the beginning. We can ignore all of those. All right, this is obviously like for a CPA firm, say, hey, we charged you all this money for your return. But that of course doesn't apply to us. All right, it's got some random information. It's got an e-file signature form that we don't need. And then here is her 1040 NR. So visa, number, address, she had single, she had no digital assets, $8,400 in wages, 5,000 of treaty exempt, it goes on there. Oh no, I totally forgot. Okay, anybody else know what I forgot? What did I do? Yes, I did. I forgot the state tax. She paid extra tax. I completely forgot about that. All right. So that is going to be a deduction for her, right? Because she had to pay extra money. She can deduct that. So we're going to go to itemized deductions because she's not a student from India. So she has to itemize and then go to taxes you paid. All right. It's very straightforward. Additional state and local income tax. Don't include the amounts from your W-2. This is only extra amounts that you paid in. And she paid in $107. All right, there. There we go. All right, she gets more money back. And we try it again. You print. Return. Downloads. All right, here we go. All right, so that looks better. All right, so 8,400, 556 for itemized deductions, 7844. Her tax is 783. She had paid already $840, so she gets back $57. So that all looks great. Her Schedule A is right here. Shows her state and local income taxes. Very, very simple and straightforward. Schedule OI, China, no. One, no. The dates, got her number of, oops. That I messed up, right? So we've got 182 for 2023 and 365 for 2021. So that is a mistake we would need to go back and fix. But she did file last year. That's good. Note all of those. Here's her China treaty benefit, which is great. That all looks good. Right, we're on our 8843, F1, that's good. Her numbers, the numbers are correct here, so I just got it wrong in the one spot. There's the school, there's that. There we go. All right. So other than fixing the state, that was pretty good. All right, so does anybody have any questions about that? All right. So what we're gonna do, let's go ahead and do our break. All right. Why don't we let's come back at 6:35. So that's something like 8 minutes. So we get a little bit longer. I will pause this, 6:35. We'll restart there. Okay. All right, so I basically got through TaxSlayer, so we don't really need to go back to that now. All right, so just a couple of words about how our clients are going to be using TaxSlayer, right? So we're the facilitated self-assistance model, right? So they have a link, they click on the link, they create their own account in TaxSlayer in that different version of TaxSlayer, and they prepare their own return. We give them guides, we give them videos, we help them, but they are doing the work themselves, right? And so in this case, remember, scope is going to be very important for us, right? If it's in scope, we can help them. If it's out of scope, they have to do it on their own, right? So one of the big challenges that we've got is that sometimes the software will do stuff that we can't talk about. The software does have an income limit. It's a hard limit, $79,000. If their adjusted gross income is over that, the software will not work for them. And of course, the software doesn't tell you that until you get to the very end. So they will be very angry about that. And please send them to me or the site coordinator. We will talk them off of that ledge. But there are some things that you as volunteers need to know not to help with, right? The first one are stock sales. So unless you also did the resident test for advanced and passed that, you can't talk about stock sales with any of the individuals. And nobody can talk about cryptocurrency, digital assets, anything like that. We can send them to the websites, we can give them some reference information, but we can't tell them how to enter it. We can't say, yep, that looks like it's good. We can say things like, yep, well, it looks like the wages part is good and your schedule OI, those things are all great, but we can't really tell you about that crypto. Hopefully, not as many students will be doing crypto these days. We'll see if that's the case or not. If you are ever not sure about it, please talk to your site coordinator. That is what their job is, to make sure that you guys stay on the straight and narrow and that you can have your questions answered. Just as a reminder, here's all of the other scope things that we do. We've talked about it before. We'll talk about it again as well. But the big one for us tonight, again, income of over 79,000, prior year, crypto, self-employment income, other treaty benefits, all those kinds of things are going to be out of scope for us, unfortunately. All right. So at the tax clinic, so all of our remote sessions are done with Zoom. We have two formats for remote sessions. So we have a clinic or we have an office hour. So a clinic is like a group help session where we have volunteers in breakout rooms. So you guys are going to all be in breakout rooms. We're going to put clients in with you for a while. And then when the time is done, they're going to go out and then a new client's going to come in. You're going to talk with them and you're going to basically have a revolving list of clients popping in, and then you're done and you do the next. Office hours from a volunteer perspective are kind of the same. Somebody comes in, you've got 20 minutes, off they go. Somebody else comes in, 20 minutes, off they go. The really big difference is that at a clinic, that person, the client, can stay, and if there's a chance, they can come back in and talk to a volunteer again. Whereas an office hour is like a 1 minute, one time, 20 minute, you do it, then you're done. The clients can ask questions and chat to the moderators. We don't let them talk, and we tell them not to chat their personal details because we don't want to share their private information. We do post answers to common questions if we have them. But in the breakout rooms, right, you can talk one-on-one with the client. They can share their screen so you can see their software. You can see their income documents. You can see their PDF. It works really well. And then in-person clinics are going to be kind of a lot like this, right? Everybody's going to have their computer. They're going to be doing their stuff. They have a question, they'll raise their hand. The volunteers go talk to them. If you need help, somebody else comes over, so on and so forth. So clients get one tax clinic appointment, right? Because as much as I would love to say it, even with our 43 volunteers, right, we're going to be able to help maybe a third of the people that are going to file with us. So we're not going to be able to help everybody. So they get one appointment. They can cancel up to 4 hours before. They don't get another appointment if they don't show, but they can walk into another in-person clinic and they can get an office hours appointment. So if somebody doesn't make it to their appointment, there is still lots of opportunities for them to get help. It just can't be quite as easy. They're going to have to work just a tiny bit harder. They get an office hour appointment. They can do one a day. So for every one that we have an appointment or a clinic on, office hour appointment on, they're welcome to make an appointment every day. If they don't show up for the first one, we'll give them a warning. If they don't show up for two, then we're going to stop them from booking again, right? Because those are appointments that somebody else could have and that they would actually show up and get help with. All right. Another word about resident aliens, right? Because we're going to be helping both non-residents and resident aliens. So when people make their appointment, they tell us what type of tax help they need, or at least what they think they need. And usually they're pretty close to right. So when you're here at a tax clinic, make sure you ask what their residency is before you help them. We try to direct them and say, okay, everybody's who's a resident, come sit over on this side here so you know where to go. But occasionally people get a little messed up. We also give all of our volunteers t-shirts to wear at the tax clinics. That makes it very easy for our clients to say who is here as a volunteer and who is not. And we color code them so that people can tell which type of a client and which type of a volunteer they're talking to. So yellow is non-resident, green is non-resident and resident, and then red are site coordinators. So that's how you know who you're talking to. As far as tracking, this is a little bit busy, but basically the outside bars are the volunteers. So, and then the inside bars are the clients. So when our blue bar, the resident people, or the gray, they don't know, is below the green, which is the number of volunteers that can handle resident work, that's a sign that we have a mismatch between the number of volunteers and their certifications and support that we can do. Whereas over here, we have volunteers that can do both, and we have a smaller percentage of resident clients. So in this case, we're going to be good because we know everybody can handle non-residents. Only the green people can handle the blue. We're looking pretty good from that perspective. So, and if we ever have something like that, and it could happen, we'll make an announcement saying, hey, you know, we've only got 1 or 2 resident volunteers tonight. So if you're here for resident taxes, it's going to take us a couple extra minutes to get to you. Please be patient with us. All right. So at the clinics, you're not going to be preparing returns from start to finish, right? That's the hour of work you're not going to be doing, right? The clients are going to be doing that. You're going to be troubleshooting. You're going to be reviewing returns to make sure it's correct, right? You're the chef. You're tasting what they made and say, yep, that looks great. Or you guys need to add some salt to that or whatever it is to try to fix it. You know, don't try to go through the software itself to try to make sure that the return is correct, right? Because you will spend that hour looking through all of the different options. Look at that final PDF, look at their income documents, ask them some questions, and that will be enough for you to determine if everything is good. So you're going to get a lot of practice with TaxSlayer over the next this session and the next 3 sessions afterwards. Again, it's not real, right? It's real software, but you can't do anything with it. So if you mess up, if you try to click on a file to return, you might say that it's gone, but it's not actually gone. Do not use Practice Lab with clients though, right? They're going to be using the TaxSlayer software because that way they have access to it. They can get access to their return after we file. And the steps at the beginning look a little bit different. All right. So if they're using a personalized guide, like what I did today, right? They get organized, they get their documents like we did for Lisa, right? I got all of her stuff. We create the guide, we follow that guide to prepare the return, we file the return, and we can generally file electronically. They need to save a copy for their records. Hopefully they do that. And they can come get help if they need it. We also have generic guides. And the generic guides basically are, think of it as like the answers to all of the questions that I asked, right? Are you married or are you not? Did you make a charitable contribution? Did you not make a charitable contribution? Did you file a tax return last year? Did you get a refund? Did you not get a refund? All of those different potential answers, our basic guides have like every single one of those potential scenarios. And so they have to kind of jump through them, say, okay, this applies to me. Nope, this doesn't. I'm going to skip over, and so on and so forth. All right. So it works. It's just not quite as convenient because they have a little bit more work to do to like figure out which parts of the guides apply to them. But if they want to, or if they're here, they can do that. get organized, confirm their residency, confirm their treaty benefits, determine which scenarios apply, use those scenarios. We have some basic scenarios, and we have like special circumstances, like what if you had stock transactions? What if you had a student loan interest payment? What if you had whatever? And we'll do guides here in just a minute. All right. This is a list of guides. So students from India, students with treaty benefits, and students without treaty benefits. Very straightforward. Those are our three kind of basic scenarios. And then all of the other ones, states fall into the special circumstances, property tax refunds, treaty benefits not matching, so on and so forth. All right. So having said that, so the rest of the time today is going to be practice time in TaxSlayer for all of you. All right. So you have seen me use TaxSlayer to prepare Lisa's returns. So you know what it should look like. You've prepared her returns yourself, right? You just did it by hand. So I have basic guides up here for everybody to use. I will pass them out. So the pink ones are basic guides for individuals with treaty benefits, which is Lisa. We also are going to do Sunil's tax return. Sunil is a student from India, so he gets the yellow guide. All right. So your job is going to be prepare those two returns, Sunil and Lisa. Do it in TaxSlayer Practice Lab. Make sure you save them as different returns because we're going to do state tax returns for them next year or next week. And so it's a lot easier. You just have to click on a few buttons to do the state return for them. If you've saved it, if you didn't save it or you like copied over, then you have to recreate the entire thing. All right. If I don't have enough basic guides for everybody here, you can do Sunil first and then do Lisa second. These are 2022 guides, but everything should be pretty straightforward. If you're out in Zoom land, so in Moodle, I put links to the basic scenario guides, scenarios 1 and 2 and 3. So if you need to get the guides, you can go do that there. All right. Okay. For next week. So again, if you haven't signed up for hopefully 8 tax clinics, please do so. Go ahead and do the preparation of their returns. So I will stop the recording after we get done here, just because I'm not going to record a whole bunch of blank time. You don't need to send me the forms for these, right? You guys know what these are. You should have already seen them, right? This is your practice to get good at it. However, you do have a couple of Moodle assignments and a quiz that's coming out tomorrow. The first return you're going to do for assignments is Harold. So you've already done Harold's return by hand. So now we're going to do it in TaxSlayer. Again, you know what Harold's return should look like, but he's got a few special things. So you'll figure out how to enter those into TaxSlayer. And then the next person is Kim. Kim is a new scenario. Kim is a student from New Zealand. And she is here. She actually transferred. She went to school at App State and Minnesota for the year. So we're going to do her return. And then there'll be a quiz on like where and how to enter data into TaxSlayer. All right. Are there any questions? Okay. All right. So I'm going to show you here. So if you click on that link, so I sent the link in the chat for the Zoom. If you go out to Moodle, it's out there. It's on one of the reference things at the very top. Click on the practice lab is how you get in. And then there's a main password, a first level password that you have to enter every time. It's all capital letters, Train Pro Web. No spaces. Train Pro Web. And then the first time you go in, you're going to create an account. You're going to do your email address. You're going to select the program type of VITA. And then a site identification number. You can put one of these two numbers, either that 300-92021 or S in front of it for site 300-92021. Select whatever security questions you want and then create an account. Then you'll be at this practice area. That's kind of the home. There are a whole bunch of videos and guides here. They're all intended for residents except for maybe one of them. I don't think they're very helpful, but you're welcome to troll through them if you want to. You'll just go to that practice area and then start a new return, just like I did, like you saw me do. Enter whatever fake SSN you want to. It's no problem. Off you go. Okay. All right, let me go back to here. Okay. All right, does anybody have any questions? Okay. All right. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm gonna look at the chat. Where are the guides in Moodle? I'm not seeing them. All right. The guides in Moodle should be down in module 12, which is the module for this week. So try looking there. If that doesn't work, then please send me another chat and we can do that. All right. And so the scenario information for Lisa and for Sunil is over there. And then here are the guides. So yellow is Sunil, pink is Lisa. I will send the bunch out. No? One guide. Seven is wrong. Get back into the random of it. Guide. Fantastic. All right. Okay. Stopping recording.